Hey, I'm Robbie Bear, and this is the Familguide Podcast presented by Familguide. I'm here with my good friend and brother-in-law, Jeremy Carroll. We're going to talk to you today about the award season. Is there any hope? There is. It's called the Familguide Awards. And we're going to talk to you about parenting in a dark time and how to speak encouragement over your kids.
We're back, everybody. Post
Familguide.org.
Familguide Awards.
Yes, we had a great Familguide Awards. It was an incredible thing. It aired on Great American Family. Hopefully everybody watched it who's listening to the broadcast. And it really kind of, the Oscars completed an award season, but obviously the best of all the awards was Familguide Awards.
Obviously.
To honor faith and family value content. But I feel like the Oscars was kind of a non-speak worthy thing. There wasn't really anything kind of big.
It was a little uneventful this year.
Yeah, it was kind of. I mean, I feel like it's gotten, the content has gotten weirder.
Yes,
and it's content that is disconnected further and further from actually like what people want. We were talking with a major producer at another award show, and they were bemoaning how a lot of these awards have kind of missed the mark. They no longer really connect with the audience. They don't elect movies that people want to see. And that's actually one of the big reasons why the Familguide Awards was created 33 years ago or whatever. It's to be able to, emphasize those movies that people actually want to see with their families all across America and around the world. We found from our report that not only does the good movies do well across America, the less violence you put in the movie, the more money it makes, the less sex, the more profitable it is. We can tell you how much every F word will cost you at the box office.
Yep.
But that's true around the world. The top 10, top 20 movies around the world tend to be cleaner too. People want to see cleaner, better movies, that their whole families can kind of watch together.
Mm-hmm. The good, the true, and the beautiful.
That's right. You've
heard
that a lot because you just edited the award show. So
yes, I've seen the award show about 400 times, and I do have to say it was still entertaining to watch it air.
The 452nd time.
Yes, exactly. But I'm super proud of that show, and our team did an amazing job. And I think it's a testament to Familguide's mission is that it had such a great reception, and everyone loved it so much, and keep asking for it.
Yeah. I think for us, we are trying to take on the Oscars, really, of the world. We want to be able to make something where people of faith can come together, and people with families can come together and watch something to find content that they care about. I mean, it's not for everybody. I mean, I'm sure that the Oscars is set for like a certain set of people or whatever who want kind of weird, arty movies, who want really very narrow niche stuff or whatever. But for ours in general, it's aimed at people who want like faith and family values content, and there's so much amazing stuff. I mean, there's stuff from the light, all the light you cannot see, to Boys in the Boat, to just so many amazing things along the way. That Jesus Revolution, which I really enjoyed a lot, and we just honored a lot of great movies. So you can check that out at Familguide.org to see a little more about it. And we had a great response. People came up and just to hear the filmmakers and everybody, and just as a way to honor this content that America's watching, but sometimes doesn't get honored in Hollywood, and to honor it in Hollywood, at a historic theater, and to do it on broadcast. And I just think that we feel very proud about it. We worked it many years. I've worked it 16 years. Yeah. And you've worked it for many, many years too. And it's just a cool sort of culmination. If you can feel the pulse, feel the change, that like, yes, we're getting bigger. And, one day, who knows? You'll see it in comparison, the Teddies versus the Oscars. But we're doing it. We're building it slowly. And we had some incredible people there, Dennis Quaid and Mike Rowe, and so many awesome people, Lori Loughlin and Candace Cameron Bure. And it was just, I think it was a fun-filled show, and it was just very faithful. I mean, people prayed at the beginning, Roma prayed at the beginning, and Candace prayed at the end. Yeah. And so
that was a big thing. They got huge reception on like Twitter and stuff. Was people were like, "Wow, there's a prayer in this award show in Hollywood." It's like, yeah, we're doing it.
And so really like that's the point is like we want to encourage. There's so many people in this world who focus on like cursing the darkness, you know, and there's a lot of darkness around. I mean, the amount of darkness is overwhelming, you know, but the thing is that like that's never been what our mission is. Our mission has been to like show the joy, you know what I mean? To be able to like shine the light on the joy that people can see around them. And so I think that award show is kind of the culmination of this passion that we have in our organization is like, hey, we don't want to be the fist raisers as much as we want to be the like encouraging people. Like there's an important role of encouragement.
Yeah.
And I think that like we've lost that in current society. Like all we see and speak of is the darkness.
Constant badgering.
And like social media is about the darkness, like the thing that does well on there. Like, you know, news, they say what bleeds, it leads. Like it's a society where like the darkness is front and center and people focus on it all the time on all sides. And no matter where you are politically, no matter where you are even from a family or not perspective, no matter where you are from like a, you know, anything from a religious perspective or whatever, like it's just that there's the focus now on the darkness a lot. And you can see that like people feel down across the board. And I think that we're missing the light. Do you know what I mean? And so like really like, you know, I travel the country and I get to talk to a lot of people and people tell me about all the horrible movies made and all the horrible TV shows. But you know what? Like I feel so blessed to be able to get to tell them like, hey, there are horrible shows, but there are some amazing content that you are going to feel blessed about. It is going to build your faith. It is going to make you more encouraged and more excited. And there's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah. And I was thinking the other day, we actually did this during the pandemic. So like there's a lot of darkness just even as a society during the pandemic, you know, and we lived in a very cracked down, lockdown place. But the thing is that like I remember my kids were even like for a moment were getting a little anxious, you know, and so we would just stop like every night we would just talk about all the things we were thankful for. You know what I mean? And I just feel like I don't know. Personally, I've just felt a lot lately that we've forgotten as a society to be thankful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we focus, like there are bad things and we want to always fight against that and change that and transform that. Like we always want to make the world better. Do you know what I mean? And I'm so thankful that people do that and are working on that. But on the flip side too, like we don't want to forget to be thankful, you know, because there's a point to joyousness. And it's like, man, we live in the greatest age in human history. The fact that like I can talk to my brother who lives in Tasmania and I can talk to him whenever I wanted to. I could talk to him every day if I wanted to. Yeah. You know, like you can have like a car pick you up through Uber. You can have food delivered to you through Grubhub. You can have any product you ever want through, you know, Amazon. Like
you gotta wait like 2 days though.
Yeah, wait 2 days and get it for like incredible prices. It's just like, wow.
Any content you want.
What an incredible age. Like even for medicine, like we have some of the greatest medicine that the world has ever seen to be able to solve some of these problems that people never thought possible, you know? And it's just like, wow, like we miss this. Like we have access to the internet. Like you have almost all of human knowledge is available to you, you know?
In your
like,
pocket.
In your pocket. Like it's just like, and you can take endless pictures and you can do all sorts of stuff. Like it's just like, what an incredible age. Yeah. And like, I think we forget that. I was talking to a gentleman and he was telling me like, man, how thankful he was that even if like his job was lost or whatever, that he's able to pick up stuff at like doing Uber or doing Instacart or things like that, like instantly. Like there's no loss for him and his family because he could just instantly pick up the gig work. Yeah. You know, and it's like, wow, that stuff didn't even exist. Now, ultimately, obviously, he wants to find he's looking for a different kind of gig. But the thing is that like, it's just that like what an incredible age that we live in, that we facilitated those sort of opportunities that were never possible before. You know what I mean? Or like you can get on a plane and travel anywhere in the world and it's becoming more affordable all the time. I saw a chart on how much it costs to fly, whatever. I think it was in the 1980s or whatever, or 90s. And what it costs now is like so much cheaper. Wow. You know what I mean? And it's just like all of this stuff, like we forget, like we live in the greatest age in all of human history. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like in a lot of ways, like but it doesn't mean that there's not darkness. And I love reading history as you do, you know? And it's like if you read about the Persian Empire or you read about the Egyptian Empire, or you read about the Roman Empire or all of these empires, Genghis Khan, there's Genghis Khan, maker of the modern world. There's so many interesting things, but there's so much hardship along the way. And it's crazy I think we forget about that. I think you can still not. I don't think you have to be Pollyanna to do it. Like, oh, everything's super great and there's no problems. I think you can understand the depth of the problems and understand too that we also live in an incredible age. You know, I think we talked about this, but you know, the media had this. I think it was in CNBC or something that came out with this report that said we live in the safest time that we've ever lived or whatever in America, and yet majority of people, because of the media, think we live in like the least safe time.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think that like what a power of media
totally.
to like push the darkness. Do you know what I mean? And so like I think our hope is obviously to push the light and say, hey, there are a lot of great movies out there. There's a lot of great people in Hollywood making incredible content that inspires your family, encourages you, makes you want to be the best version of yourself. But I don't know. I just think it's such a moment of our times. I think the other award shows do really focus on the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've attended a lot of the other award shows.
Yeah.
And you get that air of kind of like, there's a lot of like butting heads and a lot of people are kind of like pitted against each other and stuff. And I feel like for our awards, what really sets it apart is even the people in it are like encouraging to everyone else in the room. They're like, oh, we're all on this mission to make a better environment for everyone. You know, we want to push the light, push the goodness, and, you know, push faith and push values. And everyone in the room was like excited about that. Yeah. You had everybody from the entire spectrum, from Netflix to Amazon Prime to everybody. It was all there. And it's just like, it's cool to see an award show where everyone feels like they're being celebrated together. Yeah. And the other award shows, it's always like there's that one movie that's going to win everything and the people know it. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel balanced. It feels it feels like everyone's kind of got this backbiting attitude, and it really sets us apart. And I think it's making an impact.
Yeah. I mean, we believe that. We've given our lives to it. So even if Twitter tells us different, no, I'm just kidding. But I do think that like it's obviously we think it's an important mission that look, there are all sorts of different award shows. And we live in the greatest age of human history where, hey, you can buy any shampoo you want. There's 47 different shampoos or whatever, hundreds of different shampoos. You can choose whatever you want. You know what I mean? And ours really is focusing on like, hey, the joy. It's focusing on family content. It's focusing on, you know, faith content that for families. And I do think you can feel that. You feel that the group itself is encouraged and excited. And we're seeing that, and we're seeing it grow, and I think that that's an awesome, and a really awesome thing, you know. And I think it's something needed in our age. You know, we need to look at the light, because I think it's like it's important to encourage the good. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because like you have 3 kids, I got 4 kids. If I only told them,
I'm catching up. I'm just kidding.
If I only ever told them like all the time about what they did wrong. Yeah. Like, that doesn't make them the full person of character that I want them to be. You know what I mean? Like, I tell them, I speak to my kids and I think, man, wow, you are so good at this. You are doing so well at this. I'm so encouraged by how well you're treating your little sister. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there are other times where maybe they bap their sister or whatever and they get punished in the thing, of course. But, like, I think that, like, it feels like from society, we flipped a switch and we removed all words where we said, hey, you're doing the right thing, or this is going well. And we've only included like, hey, you messed up. You used the wrong fork. You're not getting a big enough plate. You spilled a little too much water. You did it. It's like, man, that doesn't work as a parent. Right. Like, it would not work. You would rot your kids. You'd make them anxious, and you'd make them so that they wouldn't be great people of character. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, the point is like speaking God's word into action, I think is what my wife says for encouragement. But like, it's like one of those things is like, we just want to we want to speak that truth over them of like, hey, you're like finding the good that they're doing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't mean, which I know every time we say these things, it doesn't mean I can't wake up every morning and say, oh, I have a 6-pack and I get a 6-pack. Like, you have to do actions to do it. But I think the parenting sphere it's like, oh, I see something that my child is doing already that's doing well. And I point that out and I encourage that, you know? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's important from a whole society perspective, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that's the big problem with social media, is especially the teenagers and stuff. They feel like they're walking on eggshells every time they're on social media or something to get chastised or criticized or whatever. And that's why, depression and everything goes up. But I think encouraging the good, that's so vitally important so that people know what to shoot for too, especially in like the Hollywood realm. We have people that don't fully have a moral compass when they're exposed to something like, oh wow, I didn't realize these are the things that were, sticking with audiences and making our product successful, which is just kind of cool to like show them through the report and everything else that we do. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think even back on the parenting thing, like kind of pulling our award show to the parenting thing of like encouraging the good, is I just felt like I read this report recently and it just broke my heart so much about like all of these young kids who are dealing with just such severe anxiety. And it's like, man, I just remember like I didn't like you didn't struggle with anxiety in elementary school because the moment you left school, you were just hanging out, you were playing, you were running around outside, you were like bike riding, and then your parents screamed for you to come back for a meal or something. You know what I mean? And it's like now, like I just think because of the advent of like social media, which I know is like the thing everyone beats on, but really it does seem terrible in some ways on that side, is that like now these kids are getting comments about themselves all the time. Like it's just, I don't know. I feel so heartbroken for the fact that like these young kids are now like dealing, like little kids are like 7 years old or whatever, are like dealing with like severe anxiety because of the nature of like the media and like media and social media that's kind of promoting these things that are, there was an interesting report that I think Facebook even did themselves that came out when a whistleblower, spoke in front of Congress that they had like pushed down that even like young kids like feel worse about themselves when they use Facebook, and it's like, this is true of like a lot of these things, because it's like, you no longer live in a world where it's like, oh, you just turn it off. Like when you go back, you're just hanging out with your family or the kids in your neighborhood or whatever. It's like, oh, you're living 24/7 in that sort of like
world.
Public virtual world.
Yeah,
in a way.
Digital version of yourself is constantly being scrutinized and compared.
Yeah, at all times. Yeah, which is crazy. I don't know. I don't fully know the solution for it. You know what I mean? Like for us, like we don't do any. Ironically, even though we work at Familguide, we don't do any screens, yet. And we found that our kids just love running around and doing their own thing.
I do think it is interesting that a lot of the big Hollywood producers don't let their kids watch too much TV, and a lot of the big tech people don't let their kids have smartphones and stuff.
I know.
It's a little bit telling.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I do feel bad for a lot of these kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they say suicide is an epidemic. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not like I just in elementary school. I mean, can you even think about?
No.
I don't think I dealt with any anxiety. Yeah. I didn't care about any care in the world. I had a great time.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I mean,
we talked about that before. Like even parents, I feel like had less like pressure back then just because of the social media thing. Like leaving your kids in the car to go to the grocery store is now seen as like a horrible crime.
Yeah, like a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Even with it on and all that sort of stuff or anything. I mean, yes, you're right. All the
before,
public shaming we've talked about that before. Or even people smash the doors for dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's a very interesting time, like where I just feel like we need like.
Well, again, there's just so much darkness.
Right.
And that's what everyone's constantly getting hit with.
And it's all we speak about.
Yeah.
I think it's not only just the social media and other things, it's like also like as parents and other things, it's like all people speak about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I just feel like, man, this is our moment. Like, let's break it.
Yeah.
And I think also like another point is like parents also have changed. Like I realize for myself, like one of the things I'm trying to do is like, hey, I get home and I just put my phone away somewhere or something, because like in all the down times, you whip out your phone to like look at news or do whatever. And it's like, I want to be able to focus on my kids, when I'm there. And like, I don't know. No, I do want to speak joy of them. I want them to be able to speak hope into them.
Well, that's another major thing. I think even with your spouse, if you're encouraging the good and you're speaking about the good of your spouse and everything, your kids are watching that and hearing that, and they're being encouraged by that,
Yeah.
But if you're in your phone talking about everything your spouse did wrong that day, and then everything that they were supposed to be doing, or or even talking about horrible news you were reading right in front of your kids and stuff, that's going to spike their anxiety through the roof.
Yeah, you're so right.
But I don't know. It's just interesting how it can just infect the home in a way.
I think that they're like external causes that like affect the home, right? Like let's say news or media or whatever. And then they're also, you're right, like internally, like how is it that we act? Because, anybody who has kids, this, like the things you like, how do you respond when your finger gets hit with a hammer?
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, what do you like, how are the things that you do? Because like they watch you and they react in that way too, you know? And so I think that those are both like kind of, and then obviously like they're third party people, like who are the people, who are their friends,
Yeah, that's huge.
One of my really good friends, whose son struggled through a lot of different things. He just said he wished the number one thing he would have focused on is the friends of his kids, is the advice he gave me. And I feel like that's really good.
Yeah.
Like a really good point about like the friends of your kids, like how important that is, for how
and their family situation and their parents and stuff. I think
and it's like
a gauge on that.
Obviously, like you can't like we don't want to bubble wrap our kids from the world, but I think in some parts, like anything that we can do to defend innocence is good too. Do you know what I mean? Like because of the darkness of the world, it's nice. Like nobody's ever like sad that they were innocent a little longer.
Right.
You know what I mean? That they had a little less anxiety and struggle, in the world. They didn't realize how hard.
I was exposed to the darkness sooner.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I was exposed to how much everything cost and how painful it is to make money
taxes,
and the taxes and nobody ever says that. You know what I mean? It's like nobody walks out of a theater and says, "Man, I wish there were more F words in a movie." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that again, like all of life is nuance. You know what I mean? And it's like part of that nuance is like you want to train that core values in your children so that they want to choose the good and reject the bad. That's why we had the book Media Wise Family, which is on the second edition. You can get it at Amazon.com. But which we came out with originally like 30 years ago or something. But like it trains that, like learning how to know the good, but in the child, so the child chooses it themselves. I think that's important. But I think it also is like we try to do the best we can to surround them with good things. You know what I mean? Surround them with good things, like encourage them with good things, like surround them with good people. But obviously, like they have to choose and learn how to want to choose the good.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the powerful thing about wisdom. Like the different, like you can know something is good or bad, but like the thing that's so powerful about wisdom, is being able to know what the good and the bad is and wanting to choose the good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they could be sitting in Sunday school all day long, but if their parents or their friend group or anyone else isn't following Christ-like, attitude or anything towards each other or in themselves, they're not going to believe in it. They're going to be like, well, then what's the point?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the parents have such a key role of like, you got to live it.
Yeah, faith in action.
Yeah, faith in action.
First touch point for kids
is very important. I mean, that's why they say there's been a lot of studies about like just parents being in church, watching their parents worship. Like if kids go to the service with their parents, like the likelihood that they maintain being Christian later in life is like really high, as opposed to, I mean, our kids go to kids' church, but so we broke that already, darn. But like, just like your kids
they sit in on the worship time.
Yeah. Sometimes. Being in church with you, like that alone, like, because it just shows the same, what you said, faith in action.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I love the song from Brandon Lake. The one about like where his son comes to pray. Have you heard that one? It's so good. And he like talks about like how his grandma would pray for him, how his mom dragged him to church, but then he found Jesus. And then about like how he was just hoping his son would pray, and his son like came into when he was like on his knees like praying, and he's like, "Dad, I want to talk to you about something." He's like, "Oh, okay, I guess this is a bad time to talk." And he's like, "No, this is a great time to talk." And they just kneeled and prayed together. And so like just seeing that, like seeing you pray, like seeing what you do, like which I know puts so much pressure, but like good. Like we live in an age where like we're like everybody's afraid of like pressure, you know what I mean, to perform. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. But no, like there's a reason why the Bible says like puts all this emphasis and importance on like leadership. Like that's the thing. Like you're a parent. Like this is your role. Like the role. Like yes, is it hard? Could we do it without Christ? No. Like we can only do it because of God, like helping us through it. You know what I mean? But it's like good. Like welcome. Like these are opportunities. You know what I mean? It's like when you're at the gym and they encourage you to do 100 push-ups instead of 75 push-ups or whatever. It's like it's like good. Like that. This is a challenge. Like it's important to do it. Like they are going to watch you. That's important. Like live that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like how everyone always jokes about like if you ever put a Christian bumper sticker on your car, like how you have to drive.
To judge your driving.
But the thing is that like good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Good. Like it means you can't honk or scream at people in the thing. Like it means you gotta walk with Christ. You know what I mean? Like you have to show it, you know? There's a reason why like such an important part of the church for so many years was not just like going to church and reading the Bible and praying, but it was also like talking to people about Jesus. Because like when you do that, then it means like, wow, people are going to watch you. Like, do they live as a Christian? Do they act as a Christian? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it forces you to do that. And good, like that's part of the point. I mean, I know that like the modern church has lost the whole part of like telling people about Jesus at all, where they don't talk to anybody about Jesus. You know what I mean? Like they hope that their pastor will tell it on Easter. And it used to be the pastor would tell it every Sunday. And now the pastor tells it on Easter. And some pastors don't even tell it at all. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like, hey, that used to be a part of every Christian walk was like, yes, you talk to people about God. Right. Because it's like the bumper sticker on their car. It says, hey, this means you got to drive better. You got to do it. But good, you're called higher. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's who we are as Christians. That's who we are as parents, is we're called higher. And I know that's kind of a hard truth and maybe an annoying truth, but it is life as a parent, you know?
Totally.
So
completely. Thanks for listening to the Family Guide podcast presented by Movie Guide. Be sure to like and subscribe, and there's going to be a little donate button there. If you give any amount, you're going to help parents make right decisions for their kids. So go ahead and do that. This has been Robbie and Jeremy on the Family Guide podcast.
If you enjoy videos that follow your values like ours and you want to help us continue, go to movieguide.org/donate, because we're actually a nonprofit. You may not know that, but we're working in Hollywood every day to help families have more choices that follows their values. And also subscribe right now.